The night the two girls were born, the moon turned red as fresh blood over the great kingdom of Oyo. Its own glow in the sky, so large it seemed one could reach up and touch it. The animals fell silent. The river stopped its usual chatter. Even the wind held its breath. In the royal palace, Queen Arike screamed through a final push as the royal midwives caught a squalling baby girl. A princess, they cried. The tiny child had eyes that shone with knowing, as if she had lived many lives before this one. They named her Adewumi, meaning I love the crown. At the same moment, in the house of Balogun, the great war commander, his wife, Olamide, gave birth after 3 days of labor. This baby girl came into the world, not crying, but with her tiny fist clenched, as if ready to fight. They named her Ogundamisi, meaning Ogun has vindicated me. As the two babies took their first breaths, the Babalawo, the wise seer of Oyo, fell to his knees in his hut. The bones he has cast for divination told a story that made his old hands trembled. He rushed to the palace, his white robes flapping like ghostly wings in the night. "Alafi!" he called to the king. "The gods have spoken. These two daughters, born under the blood moon, will shake the foundations of Oyo." The king frowned as he waved a dismissive hand. "What nonsense is this? A girl cannot rule Oyo." But the Balogun, warrior that he was, looked at his newborn daughter and smiled. "This one," he said proudly, "will be a general greater than her father." As the girls grew, everyone in Oyo marveled at them. Adewumi, with her sharp mind, could recite all the kingdom's history by age 5. She moved with grace, her every step measured, her every word thoughtful. The palace tutors said she argued like a seasoned elder when discussing laws and traditions. Ogundamisi was all fire and movement. By 7, she could throw a spear straighter than boys twice her age. While the other girls played with dolls, she fashioned warriors from clay and set them in battle formations. Her father secretly began training her in warriors' arts, though the kingdom's tradition forbade women from becoming soldiers. The two girls met properly when they were 8 years old. The Alafi had ordered a great feast to celebrate the harvest. All important family came to the palace. Adewumi sat stiffly on a cushioned stool, back straighter as a spear, watching the other children play. She had been told princesses don't run and shout. Then she noticed another girl standing apart, Ogundamisi, her arms crossed, scolding at some boys who were showing off with wooden swords. "Those forms are wrong," Ogundamisi suddenly declared. The boys laughed at her. Before anyone could blink, she snatched a sword from the tallest boy and demonstrated the proper stance. Her movements were so quick, so precise, that Adewumi found herself standing, drawn to this fierce girl like a moth to flame. "You fight well," Adewumi said when the demonstration ended. Ogundamisi turned, surprised to be addressed by the princess. For a moment, the two girls simply studied each other. Then Ogundamisi grinned. "And you speak like a queen." That was the beginning. From that day, whenever their duties allowed, the girls stole away to a secret place beneath a great Iroko tree at the edge of the royal gardens. There, they shared dreams, too dangerous to speak aloud. "I will be king one day," Adewumi confessed once, her voice barely above a whisper. Ogundamisi didn't laugh. "Then I will be your sword," she said simply. When they were 12, the first test came. a visiting prince from Benin, mocked Adewumi during negotiations, saying women had no place in matters of the state. Before Adewumi could respond with words, Ogundamisi, though smaller, had the boy pinned against a wall with a dagger at his throat. "Apologize to the princess," she growled. The incident caused an uproar. The Balogun was furious, but secretly proud. The Alaafin was displeased, but thoughtful. That night, he called Adewumi to his chambers. "Daughter," he said, "that white girl is a bad influence. You must remember your place." Adewumi bowed her head, but inside, rebellion stirred. That night, she and Ogundamisi made a blood pact beneath their tree, slicing their palms and mingling their bloods with wine. "No one will decide our future but us," Adewumi saw. Ogundamisi clasped her hand tightly. "Together, we will be unstoppable." The blood moon watched silently above, as if remembering the night of their births. The rainy season had come to Oyo, turning the red earth into thick mud that clung to sandals and hoofs alike. Adewumi, now 16, stood at the balcony watching the downpour. The drumming of rain on the palace roof mirrored the restless beating of her heart. In the courtyard below, a figure moved through the storm, Ogundamisi, practicing her sword forms despite the weather. Her muscles gleamed with rainwater as she spun and struck at an imaginary enemy. Adewumi smiled. Only Ogundamisi would train during a flood. Then the palace gates opened. A group of hunters returned from the forest, their bodies streaked with mud and blood from a successful hunt. At their head walked Akintunde, tallest of them all, his shoulders straining against the leopard carcass he carried. Even from this distance, Adewumi could see how his smile flashed white against his dark skin when he laughed at something his friend said. Her breath caught. That evening, the palace had a feast to celebrate the hunter's return. Adewumi sat beside her father, dressed in her finest blue and gold robes. She pretended not to watch as Akintunde entered the hall, now cleaned up and wearing a simple white tunic that showed off his powerful arms. "Who is that?" she asked her serving girl, trying to sound casual. "That is Akintunde, son of the herbalist, but the best tracker in Oyo. They say he killed a lion with just a knife last dry season." Adewumi's heart beat faster. She had seen many fine noblemen, but none moved her like this. With the quiet confidence of someone who knew his own strength, but didn't need to boast about it. When the dancing started, Adewumi made sure to walk past where Akintunde sat. Her shoulder brushed his arm accidentally, and when he turned to apologize, their eyes met. My princess," he murmured, bowing his head. His voice was deep, like a distant thunder. Adewumi meant to say something clever, but found her tongue tied. She simply nodded and continued walking, her cheeks burning. Ogundamisi arrived late to the feast, still smelling of training ground. She grabbed a gourd of palm wine and dropped onto a bench near the hunters. "That was a good kill today," she said to Akintunde without ceremony. "But you dragged the leopard wrong, ruined the pelt." The hunter around them gasped at her bluntness. Akintunde studied her for a long moment, then burst out laughing. "You are right. Next time, you can show me how you carry a full-grown leopard, warrior girl." Ogundamisi grinned and took a long drink. "Maybe I will." As the night wore on, they traded stories of hunts and battles. Where Adewumi had been too nervous to speak, Ogundamisi was bold. When Akintunde demonstrated a hunting trick with his knife, Ogundamisi countered with a warrior's move he had never seen. Adewumi watched from a place of honor. her smile growing tighter each time Ogundamisi made Akintunde laugh. In the weeks that followed, Akintunde came often to the palace to deliver special herbs for the king's aching joints. Adewumi began accidentally walking through the courtyard whenever he visited. One morning, she intercepted him near the royal gardens. "Do you know anything about these flowers?" she asked, pointing to a blooming shrub. "Our healer says that they have medicinal properties." Akintunde's large hands were surprisingly gentle. He examined the petals. "Yes, princess, my mother uses this for..." "Ade!" Ogundamisi's voice cut through the air as she jogged up to them. She punched Akintunde's arm in greeting. "I see you've met the princess." Adewumi's polite mask slipped for just a second. "We were discussing medicinal plants." Ogundamisi snorted. "Boring. Akintunde, come to the training ground. I want to try that hunting move you showed me against a real opponent." As Akintunde hesitated, Adewumi saw his eyes linger on Ogundamisi's face. Something twisted in her chest. The rains ended, and the festival of Ogun arrived. The entire kingdom gathered to honor the god of iron and war. Adewumi sat on her royal platform beside her father, watching the mock battle below. Ogundamisi, fighting in the warriors' exhibition, moved like liquid fire. But Adewumi's eyes kept drifting to Akintunde, who stood at the edge of the field, cheering louder than anyone. That evening, during the bonfire celebration, Adewumi finally got Akintunde alone near the riverbank. "You seem close with my friend," she said lightly, watching the firelight play across his face. Akintunde smiled, his eyes following Ogundamisi's form as she danced around the bonfire. "She's unlike anyone I've met." The way he said it made Adewumi's stomach drop. She had practiced 100 pretty speeches in her mirror, but suddenly they all turned to ash in her mouth. When she didn't respond, Akintunde bowed. "With your leave, princess, I should." He gestured towards the dancing. Adewumi nodded stiffly. As they walked away, she saw Ogundamisi spot him and wave eagerly. Their hands touched as he joined her in the dance, and something in that simple contact told Adewumi everything she didn't want to know. 2 months later, the truth could no longer be ignored. Adewumi found Ogundamisi sharpening her sword by their Iroko tree. "You are in love with the hunter," Adewumi said, with Ogundamisi wet stone stilled. After a long pause, she nodded. "And he with me." The words hit Adewumi like a physical blow. "Do you know how many noblemen's sons seek my hand? Yet you take the one man I..." She cut herself off. Ogundamisi's eyes widened. I didn't know." "Of course not," Adewumi snapped. "You never see anything but what is right in front of your face." The two friends stared at each other, the air between them crackling with tension. Finally, Ogundamisi stood and sheathed her sword. "I won't apologize for loving him," she said quietly. "But I am sorry it hurt you." As Ogundamisi walked away, Adewumi clutched the bark of their tree so hard it scraped her skin. The first seed of betrayal had been planted. That night, Adewumi laid awake, staring at her ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Akintunde's face lightening up at Ogundamisi's approach. A memory surfaced, their childhood promise beneath the very tree. "No one will decide our future but us." But now Ogundamisi had chosen Akintunde, and Akintunde had chosen Ogundamisi. Adewumi rose and went to her mirror. The face staring back was regal, beautiful, and utterly alone. Somewhere in the city, Ogundamisi and Akintunde were probably together laughing, touching, planning a future Adewumi wasn't part of. Her reflection smiled bitterly. We will see about that. The dry season wind blew hot across Oyo, carrying dust and whispers through the palace corridors. Adewumi stood at her father's bedside, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. The Alaafin was dying. Send for Ogundamisi, she told the servant, her voice hollow. Ogundamisi arrived still wearing her training armor, sweat glistening on her brow. She took one look at Adewumi's face and immediately crossed the room to embrace her. He is gone, isn't he? Adewumi nodded stiffly against her friend's shoulder. The weight of what came next pressed down on them both. In the courtyard below, the royal drummers began the morning rhythm. 7 slow beats, then silence. Across the kingdom, people would hear it and know the Lion of Oyo had fallen.